Welcome to Studio 5. We've got a great show ahead. You could call our first guest the $25 million movie man from Atlanta. And then we have a music man with Canadian roots. Both have the same mission, connecting God to his people. You want to stick around to witness how. We also have a great rundown to share this week. We're looking at the top 5 stories in the world of uplifting entertainment. And here are the first 2. At number 5.
These people they're ready to laugh. Right here, player, right here.
Comedian and actor Mike Epps honors the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, serving Jackson, Mississippi residents who are still struggling with a water crisis.
No laughing matter, and the rest of the country don't understand how bad it is. To come here, man, and to see how resilient these people are here in Jackson. Jackson's always been a great city in America, man, and I think as a country and a government, we need to support them.
At number 4.
Under your shadow, under your wing.
New music from Grammy Award-winning singer Dante Bowe as he drops his new single, Hide Me, on Good Morning America.
I feel like Jesus uses people and things to just shake the nest and get us out of our comfort zone and bring us into a season of, rejuvenation. I feel like when he hides us, he prepares us. And even though I was hidden in that season, I feel like God was preparing me for what's to come, the journey ahead.
You keep me safe, keep me safe, keep me safe, keep me safe.
Well, that begins our countdown and brings us to the $25 million movie man. Phil Stevens was comfortable working as the creative director for his church when he felt God calling him to faith-based filmmaking. It's given birth to Missio Dei Films, and it aims to bring diversity to the industry. Atlanta has earned quite a few nicknames: the Big Peach, the Big A, A-Town, Dogwood City, and even New York of the South.
They don't like when you call it mini LA, but it's getting that way. A lot of people are coming to Atlanta to make content.
That isn't what lured Phil Stevens from New Jersey to Georgia so many years ago, but it is how he spends his time now more than ever. So would I be correct in saying you started out in engineering professionally?
IT, yeah.
How does the IT guy become a film director?
I went to a church in Atlanta and I got on the actors team and I loved it. I either wanted to be in videos or make videos. I actually started this like iCarly type thing that wasn't good at all. It was bad. It was really bad. The lighting was bad, but everybody loved it. And I remember God speaking to me in a meeting, because I was in meetings all day long at this Fortune 500 company, and he said, "What are you doing with what I gave you?" I remember getting up out of the meeting, going to the stairwell and weeping. And I went home to tell my wife, "Hey, I think I need to chase this creative thing."
I've already paged her.
Well, can you page her again before you get back to Farmville?
Wow, what a charmer. I can see why she rushes out to meet you.
So do you then immediately launch into filmmaking? What happens?
I started working for a buddy of mine who had Home Depot as main client. It was a third-party testing type company like UL. And I started doing some software development for him and some video and photography. And they had seen some of the testing footage that I had done. It was bad. But they were like, "Hey, can your boy do a couple promos for our new Husky pliers?" And he was like, "Yeah, no problem." And I did it. They loved it. They put more projects on our plate.
Other big brands followed, along with big cinematic ideas.
You want to question me in front of others?
No.
I am God here!
I'm gonna question you.
And my most assuredly, I'm better than the devil!
What was your production firm called?
Bedhead Media.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I don't have any hair. So
I know what that feels like.
Yes. So people love that. Yeah.
So you're working and doing well with Bedhead Media and working in your church. And what happens?
I was sitting in a service after we shot out in LA this Wise Man thing for Christmas. I was sitting in a service in January last year, and God said, "I know you've been patiently waiting to hear from me, and I've been stirring in you this desire to write and direct narrative films only. It's more than that. You're going to start a faith-based film production company, and I'm going to fund it. And you need to just go. And I remember just shaking in my soul and wanting to tell my wife, who was wondering why I was fidgeting so much. And a guy came up to me, tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, "Hey, are you going to be around after service?" And finally, after service, I get to talk to him, and he says, "Hey, I know I don't know you, but God's been stirring in me to talk to you for 2 weeks, and I've been ignoring it because I'm scared." But he said, "You're going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with the Tyler Perrys of Atlanta. They're going to wonder why you're there, but God's not going to wonder." And he said, "I don't know what to do with this, but whatever he told you to do, you need to go do." And this was like 10 minutes after God just talked to me. Wow. He said, "Don't be afraid." And God said, "You cannot fail. You cannot fail." And I'm like weeping in front of this dude. It's like ugly. My face is swelling up. It's just not pretty. And sure enough, not too long after that, we had a few investors kind of reach out, and they were excited about being part of it. Apparently people want to give their some of their funds to faith-based films. They enjoy it. And then we had one big investor that was just like, "Listen, I want to fill the rest of your slate." And we raised $25 million. $25 million. Undeservingly so, to just make a slate of film and TV projects.
That $25 million investment arrived 5 months after God gave Phil the vision for Atlanta's newest production company. And veteran filmmaker Autumn Bailey Ford has signed on to lead its very first project. The name of your production company is?
Missio Dei. It means the mission of God, so we can stay on mission. I don't want to get all this money and make a Marvel film. I mean, I do, but we need to stay on mission with God and be obedient to what God told me to do.
Again, Phil Stevens' company is called Missio Dei Films, and one of the first projects is called The Send-Off. It's a female-led drama, and Stevens is in the director's seat.
Still ahead. Jordan St. Cyr hits the road for Colton Dixon's Build a Boat tour. But before he does, he's in Studio 5 with us.
At number 3.
The late Toni Morrison said that your life is already a miracle of chance, just waiting for you to order its destiny. But in order for that destiny to manifest, I think that it requires courage, to have faith. It requires patience.
Inspiration from actress Angela Bassett and her Golden Globe acceptance speech for Best Supporting Actress in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
It's not easy because the path is circuitous and it has many unexpected detours. But by the grace of God, I stand here. I stand here grateful. Grateful to my family, Courtney, B. Vance, Bronwyn, and Slater. I love you from the depths of my heart. And my mother always said that good things come to those who pray. And I see the truth of that every day as we welcome each new day as a family.
At number 2.
As a child, Zora Neale Hurston possessed a keen interest in the stories she heard about people's lives and customs while lingering at Joe Clark's General Store in Eatonville, Florida, one of a handful of all-black towns in the United States.
A Studio 5 first looked at a key figure in the Harlem Renaissance. How important do you think faith was to Zora's work and life?
What I know about Zora Neale Hurston's connection to faith is that it was important in the sense that her father was a preacher and she grew up in the church. And it's been reported in the research that we've uncovered that in Harlem, when she lived in Harlem, she would attend church service periodically, and maybe regularly, it's unclear. And then she always felt the church was important in terms of culture, Black culture. And so if you look at her writings and her ethnographic research, the church is a big part of that.
The documentary, Zora Neale Hurston Claiming a Space, offers an extensive look inside the life of the anthropologist and author, and premieres on PBS this week.
It was the habit of the men folks particularly to gather on the store porch of evenings and swap stories. Even the women folks would stop and break a breath with them at times. I'd drag out my leaving as long as possible in order to hear more, to allow whatever was being said to hang in my ear.
Welcome back to Studio 5. Connecting God to His people is a running theme in today's show, and singer Jordan St. Cyr is on a mission to do just that. His music has recently taken the top spot for most played song in Canada, where he's from. He calls Nashville home these days, but the mission remains the same.
I remember how you told me I can trust you completely. So why am I doubting when you prove that you'd fight for me?
Most of us will say we became familiar with you in 2020 with the single Fire.
Yeah.
But you've been at this longer than 2020.
Yeah.
2020,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you're in this with me, I won't be afraid.
You know what? I started music in my youth group. I came from a very small town of about 1,200 people, and worship was just this language I felt God gave me as a young person to just get it out.
'Cause you're walking with me.
Did the singer-songwriter thing. I had a 6-year stint playing in bars and clubs with my rock bands. Then kind of shifted into more of like a folk Americana. We did a couple albums like that, and this whole time I was a worship leader. You know, so we'd play like 1 a.m. sets at the bar, and again, just trying to be who God called me to be in that scenario, and then go lead worship, be at the church for 7 a.m. And I knew in that season, while it wasn't like this, you know, successful season, it was the grind. But it was the grind for my spirit and my soul of God revealing, these are my people. Wherever you are, these are my people, all looking for me.
And it feels like I can barely breathe. I walk through these fires, 'cause you're walking with me.
Has the voice always been so rock?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's always
naturally come that
it's
way.
always been forced. It's always been a little rough around the edges, and that's just our roots. Like my dad was a songwriter and singer growing up, and this folk rock thing is just kind of at the core of our family.
There's another song I'd like to get sort of the story behind, No Matter What.
You know, this song, you know, we started with Fires. We walked through this season with our little girl. The Weary Traveler, we again encountered the next chapter, just me being on the road, my family, this overarching pandemic we're walking through. No Matter What is a song where we kind of land on what are we going to tell our hearts despite our circumstances. And so as believers, as a married couple, as parents of 4 kids, we're going to lead our hearts with the truth that no matter what comes our way, even when we don't feel like I see God moving, or I feel like the world, you know, looks like it's just heading in such a worse direction, I'm going to stand on this truth that God is faithful, and that His faithfulness, His goodness, His mercy is just as good today as it was yesterday. So I can trust in that. I can trust in that. So I stand on that truth that no matter what, God, you are faithful.
No matter what.
Jordan St. Cyr wrapped his 2022 with a Christmas tour across the United States with Crowder, Katie Nicole, and Matt Maher. With that, we have made it to one of my favorite parts of the show. It's time to share a story in pictures. Here's this week's Studio 5 Snapshot.
Remembering a life lost. Singer and songwriter Lisa Marie Presley died last week after being hospitalized following an apparent cardiac arrest, and just 2 days after she attended the 2023 Golden Globe Awards. Lisa Marie is the only daughter of music legend Elvis Presley, who died at his Graceland mansion from cardiac arrest in 1977. The family will host a public memorial for Presley at Graceland this Sunday, January 22nd. Lisa Marie was 54. Just moments away.
A, B, C, and X camera. Mark.
Everything old is new again.
Our show isn't so much a reboot as it is a revival of the original Night Court.
The long-running 1980s sitcom returns to NBC.
Yeah, the judge is not good on the subway. I rode with her once. She held the pole and then touched her face so many times.
And we're taking you behind the scenes.
Welcome back to Studio 5. You've heard it said, everything old is new again, and we're seeing it play out in primetime television. The long-running 1980s sitcom Night Court is returning to NBC, but it's not quite a reboot. It's a bit more of a sequel to the original series.
A, B, C, and X camera. Start.
Indulge me, I'd just like to know what's underneath all this. Our show isn't so much a reboot as it is a revival of the original Night Court. When we were pitching it, I kept calling it a new boot because it's very much a continuation of the show that I love so much.
All rise. The Honorable Abby Stone presiding.
Abby Stone is the daughter of Judge Harry Stone from the original.
My dad used to do a lot of magic tricks, and whenever I asked him how they were done, he would say, "It's magic," which drove me crazy. He thought if I knew how they worked, I wouldn't like them as much.
And she leaves her small town, upstate New York, to come to Night Court, and she really wants to make a difference. She's an eternal optimist, and her whole drive and motivation is about seeing people for more than just their cases, and wants to get to the bottom and the heart of everyone who comes through the courtroom.
They gave me this fancy wooden hammer, so I kind of get to do what I want.
And I think really her arc for the first season is doing what she loves to do and making sure that she's still continuing with her drive and purpose of making the world a better place.
I almost didn't recognize you with the beard. In pictures, you always look so put together. Not that the beard isn't a good look. It's a great way to cover up a weird neck. Not that your neck is weird, it's... Wow, look at that view!
That is what sold Sarah on the place.
I remember my first day shooting the pilot, and I couldn't believe that I was getting the great fortune to work with John Larroquette.
I'm afraid you've confused me with someone else. Someone who likes people.
I'll use Harry Anderson's description of the character, that he's a cross between Basil Fawlty and Barney Fife.
Wait, I'm sorry, wait. Did I say my name is Dan Fielding? I meant to say John Larroquette.
And he comes back into the system because he's been long gone. And Harry Stone's daughter takes on the job as the new judge at the Night Court, and she needs some help just to sort of get used to the ropes of this place. And the only person still around, sort of, is my character.
But I am not afraid to open a box. Stay out! Harry!
This is the best job ever.
It's like four comedy superstars I'm working with that I get to just play and make people laugh.
I gotta find ways to keep my brain from eating itself.
It's really become this amazing workplace family.
I'm grounded and I'm warm and I'm funny and I'm heartfelt, and everybody can see a little bit of themselves in that.
There's a decent chance a total stranger will try to stick their hand in your mouth.
Guilty. Guilty. Impressive, but guilty.
I think now more than ever, everyone's really looking to laugh and to have fun. And even though our world and maybe our justice system feels broken, having a courthouse where everyone is thinking out of the box and just having fun and providing hope, I think that's something that we all need right now.
You feel that way about people. It's hard not to like them once you know what's going on underneath.
All we can hope for is that they laugh at it. And they laugh at what Fielding does, and they laugh at what the judge does. Our only job is to make people laugh.
I'm already regretting this.
All right, let's do this.
You can catch Night Court running right now on NBC. We need to take a quick break, but before we do, we've made it to the final story in this week's countdown of the best stories in uplifting entertainment. Here's what's finishing on top this week.
At number 1. A Studio 5 exclusive first look at the stage production of C.S. Lewis's The Horse and His Boy, coming to the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. this week.
That's a tall car under the edge of the wood.
The Logos Theater production runs January 20th through March 3rd.
It's an absolute adventure. So they're going to go on a wild ride
it moves a lot. Each Lewis book that I've worked on kind of has its own style that emerges as I'm reading through the book and looking at it. And this one is all about storytelling. So there are two stories that we're following really, which would be Shasta and Erebus. And it's a whole production following their stories, watching their journey. So as they're telling their stories, sometimes their story comes around them and flows and moves. So you really are never still a lot.
Coming up.
I came here to take you to lunch, because I'm 3 blocks away on the site. And those wolves are lusting all after you and looking down your shirt.
The $25 million movie man returns to release a final word for this edition of Studio 5.
Welcome back to Studio 5. Music fuels this production every single week, and this week, If I Could Have Anything, from House Fires with Blake Wiggins and Aja Walls in the leaders' chairs. Take a listen and you're going to hear why this is what's playing in my ear.
May I be like David, unconvinced by power of my idol, and worshiping in triumph and in trial, a faithful friend of God.
On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5. Time to look ahead to next week.
But I don't have to move on. I'll write it down in the words of a new song.
The music of Moonrise.
Did creating a new album that comes out alongside it, did that make it easier for you, or was that even more intense?
With country music singer turned actor.
This is Sam Lynn, the horse trainer you apparently hired.
Can't send her home after she's come all this way.
I'm Will Brown.
Have we met before? He was a country singer.
Granger Smith.
It didn't make my schedule easier, that's for sure. but it probably made my brain work a little easier, just because I've always done music, and so adding music to the film just helped the whole project feel more like me.
In this house, we've got pictures down the halls. We've got markings on the walls.
Please join us for that story and so much more come next week. Before we say goodbye today, we want to return to our sit-down guest, Phil Stevens, for today's final word.
What would you say to people who are hearing this story, especially you're talking about being older and starting this new venture, who look at themselves and think, it's too late, it's over for me, I'm tired. You talk about a dream dying a little. Many people's dreams have completely died in their minds. What would you say?
I would say to people that were hoping that a promise is still fulfilled and it's been a long time for them, I would say sometimes if God's promised you something and you haven't gotten it yet, he's probably still working on it, or he's working on you. So just kind of lean into that. So I always tell people that I mentor that, we want to be on the other side of a thing. Whether it's trauma or it's just a huge problem or career issues or whatever, we want to take the shortcut and be on the other side of it. We don't want to go through the pain or the waiting or we don't have the patience for it. But God likes to go the long way around, right? He likes to walk and talk with us. He wants us to get to know his heart. So in those conversations and the waiting, we are just molded to and aligned with him to do what he's called us to do.
Phil Stevens, thank you. That is a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then please come on back. See where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.